For years, a mansion in Newport Beach kept one of Hollywood's biggest secrets, the private world of John Wayne. When he died in 1979, the house was sealed immediately. Every photograph, letter, and personal belonging was locked away and hidden for over 30 years. Then, in 2011, the doors were finally opened. What people discovered inside shocked everyone, from priceless movie props to a mysterious will that divided his family. This is the true story of what really happened to the Duke and his fortune. John Wayne was born Marion Robert Morrison on May 26, 1907, in Winterset, Iowa. He was a big baby, weighing 13 pounds, which was so unusual that the local newspaper wrote about it. Even as a child, it seemed he was destined for something great. When he was just 3 years old, he nearly drowned after falling into an icy creek. A stranger happened to pass by and pulled him out. That early brush with death showed the strength and luck that would follow him all his life. His name changed early too. When his parents had another son, they decided to name the baby Robert, so they changed Marion's middle name to Mitchell. It seemed like a small change at the time, but it was the first of many transformations he would go through. In 1914, the Morrison family moved to Glendale, California, after his father's business failed. That move would change everything. In Glendale, young Marion earned the nickname Duke. He had an Airedale Terrier dog that he named Duke, and the two were always together. The local firefighters started calling them Big Duke and Little Duke. Marion liked the name, and it stuck for life. He loved sports, especially football. In 1925, he won a football scholarship to the University of Southern California. He studied pre-law and joined the Sigma Chi fraternity. Everything was going well until a body surfing accident injured his shoulder. The injury cost him his scholarship and his dream of playing football. He was devastated, thinking his future was ruined. But that accident turned out to be a blessing in disguise. After losing the scholarship, Marion took a job at Fox Studios in 1927 as a prop man, earning $35 a week. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave him his first step into Hollywood. His first time on screen wasn't even as an actor. He appeared briefly as a football player in the 1926 movie Brown of Harvard. While working there, he met director John Ford, who would later change his life. Ford saw potential in him and encouraged him to change his name to something stronger. After trying a few ideas, they decided on John Wayne. It was simple, bold, and unforgettable. Wayne's early years as an actor were rough. Between 1930 and 1939, he starred in over 80 low-budget westerns. Many of them were filmed in just a few days, and he was paid very little, sometimes so little that he could only afford one meal a day, usually a can of beans heated on a small stove. By 1938, he was so discouraged that he seriously thought about quitting acting for good. Then came Stagecoach in 1939, the movie that changed everything. The studio wanted a big star like Gary Cooper, but John Ford fought for Wayne and even threatened to walk away from the film if they didn't cast him. Wayne played the Ringo Kid, an outlaw with a good heart. His first scene became iconic. The camera zoomed in on his face as he spun his rifle. It only lasted a few seconds on screen but took 27 takes because he was so nervous. Stagecoach became a massive success. It earned 7 Academy Award nominations and won 2. Wayne's performance made him a star overnight. Even though he was paid just $3,700, the film completely changed his career. After that, John Wayne was the face of the American Western, strong, honest, and fearless. He was careful about the roles he chose. He turned down famous movies like The Maltese Falcon and High Noon because he didn't want to play characters that went against his image. It was a smart move. He became a national symbol of rugged masculinity and American values. John Wayne and John Ford went on to work together for over 50 years, making 14 movies that helped define Hollywood. Their friendship started back in 1928 when Ford gave Wayne a tiny part as an extra in Mother Machree. But their real success began with Stagecoach. Ford was known for being harsh on his actors, and Wayne often got the toughest treatment. On the set of The Searchers in 1956, Ford made Wayne repeat a simple scene of picking up a gun 17 times in front of the whole crew. Wayne never argued back. He believed Ford's strict methods pushed him to perform his best. Although The Searchers wasn't appreciated at the time, it's now considered one of the greatest movies ever made. Their last film together, Donovan's Reef in 1963, almost didn't happen. Wayne felt he was too old for the part, and Ford was in poor health and struggling with alcoholism. But Wayne convinced him to take it on. They filmed in Hawaii, where the heat was brutal, often over 100 degrees. Ford even directed some scenes from a stretcher because of a painful case of shingles. Despite all that, the movie turned out to be a fun success. Wayne's first Oscar nomination came in 1949 for Sands of Iwo Jima, where he played Sergeant John Stryker, a tough Marine. At first, Wayne didn't want the part, thinking it was too similar to roles he'd already played. But the head of Republic Pictures, Herbert Yates, offered him $250,000 and a share of the profits, a huge deal for the time. The filming was intense and dangerous. The director wanted everything to feel real, so they used actual flamethrowers and explosives during the battle scenes. One explosion went off too close, knocking Wayne unconscious for half an hour. Production stopped for 2 days. They even used real combat footage from the actual Battle of Iwo Jima, blending it with the movie so seamlessly that many viewers thought all the scenes were real. The famous flag-raising moment was filmed using the original flag from the battle, and 3 of the real Marines who raised it appeared in the movie. Despite all that, Wayne lost the Oscar that year to Broderick Crawford for All the King's Men. Still, his performance cemented him as one of America's most beloved heroes. Behind the scenes, Wayne's personal life was just as dramatic as his films. He was married 3 times and had 7 children. His relationships were full of passion and conflict, but his biggest battles were often with himself, against illness, regret, and the heavy image he carried as a national icon. When he died in 1979, his Newport Beach mansion became a time capsule of his life. When his home was finally opened decades later, it revealed not just the glamorous side of Hollywood, but also the struggles of a man who lived for the screen and died with secrets locked away. Among the memorabilia were personal letters, movie props, and even a version of his will that shocked his family, dividing them over money and inheritance. John Wayne's life was larger than any of his films. He was tough, proud, and deeply flawed, but to millions, he was the ultimate cowboy, the man who stood tall no matter what came his way. His story, from a boy named Marion in Iowa to one of the biggest stars in movie history, remains one of the greatest legends Hollywood ever told. John Wayne had once turned down the lead role in High Noon because he thought the movie was un-American. Losing the Oscar that year disappointed him deeply, and it would take another 11 years before he received another nomination. His next big dream project was The Alamo in 1960, a film he had wanted to make for more than 15 years. It became one of the biggest risks of his career. Wayne believed so strongly in the story that he personally financed it, mortgaging his house, cars, and even his boat to raise the money. The movie cost around $12 million to make, which was a huge amount for the time. Wayne insisted on building a full-scale replica of the real Alamo in Texas. The construction took 2 years and used over 1.5 million adobe bricks. Everything was designed to look exactly like it would have in the 1830s, right down to the nails and furniture. The massive set later became a tourist attraction that stayed open until 2009. Filming was tough. There were over 7,000 extras, 1,500 horses, and 79 days of shooting under the burning Texas sun, where temperatures sometimes reached 110 degrees Fahrenheit. There were accidents too. One extra was stabbed with a bayonet and needed 26 stitches. Despite the challenges, Wayne refused to take shortcuts. He wanted every detail to be perfect. When The Alamo finally premiered, it was a grand event with parades and fireworks. The film earned 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, but critics were divided. The movie didn't make enough money to cover its huge costs, and Wayne wasn't nominated for Best Director. It was a painful blow to him because he had poured his heart, money, and years of effort into it. Still, the movie became part of American culture and shaped how people remembered the Battle of the Alamo for generations. In 1970, Wayne finally won an Oscar for True Grit. He played Rooster Cogburn, a one-eyed U.S. Marshal, a rough, funny, and deeply human character. At first, Wayne didn't want to take the role. He was older now and still recovering from lung cancer surgery. But after reading the novel, he realized this might be the role of a lifetime. Filming in Colorado was hard. The cold weather and high altitude made it difficult for him to breathe, and he often needed an oxygen tank between scenes. In one scary moment, his horse stumbled on a steep hill and nearly threw him off. He tore a muscle in his shoulder but kept going. To play Rooster Cogburn, Wayne gained weight and wore an eye patch that made it hard for him to see. He had to memorize the sets so he wouldn't bump into things. But his performance felt fresh and real, and audiences loved it. The movie made over $31 million and became one of the biggest hits of his career. At the Oscars, Wayne accepted his award with humor, saying, "If I'd known this, I'd have put that patch on 35 years earlier." He had the flu that night but refused to miss the ceremony. Some people believe the Academy gave him the award as a lifetime achievement honor rather than for that specific role, but Wayne didn't mind. Rooster Cogburn became one of his most loved characters and confirmed his place as one of Hollywood's greatest stars. Wayne's personal life, however, was just as dramatic as his movies. He married 3 times over nearly 50 years. His first wife, Josephine Saenz, married him in 1933 when his career was just beginning. They had 4 children together, but as his fame grew, he was away from home more and more. In 1938, he began a secret affair with the glamorous actress Marlene Dietrich. Josephine tried to save the marriage. They even took a trip to Mexico in 1943 to reconnect, but it didn't help. They divorced in 1945. In 1946, Wayne married his second wife, Esperanza Bauer, a former Mexican actress. Their marriage was passionate but stormy. Esperanza was extremely jealous and often accused Wayne of cheating, especially with his co-star Gail Russell during the filming of Angel and the Bad Man. One night, after drinking heavily, Esperanza tried to shoot Wayne when he came home late from a party. Thankfully, she missed, but the relationship never recovered. They divorced in 1954. That same year, Wayne married his third wife, Pilar Palite, a Peruvian actress. They had 3 children together and seemed happy for a while. But by 1973, their marriage had fallen apart, and they separated. Wayne then moved in with his secretary, Pat Stacy, who was 34 years younger than him. Although he and Pilar never divorced, Pat became his closest companion and caretaker during his final years. Wayne's affair with Marlene Dietrich had been one of Hollywood's worst-kept secrets. It began in 1938 during the filming of 7 Sinners and lasted almost a decade. Wayne was still married to Josephine, but that didn't stop him from spending nights at Dietrich's house. Their connection was fiery and romantic. Dietrich used her influence to help his career, making sure he got big roles in movies like The Spoilers and Pittsburgh in 1942. Even after their romance ended in 1947, they stayed close friends. Dietrich once said Wayne was the love of her life. Another important woman in Wayne's life was actress Maureen O'Hara. They starred together in 5 films, beginning with Rio Grande in 1950. Their most famous was The Quiet Man in 1952, where their chemistry was so real that fans were convinced they were a couple off-screen. O'Hara even joked about an old woman who once stopped her on the street, calling her Mrs. Wayne. Wayne's children were so fond of her that they called her Aunt Maureen. Years later, O'Hara's grandson revealed that the two did have a brief romance but said it couldn't last because both were too strong-willed. Still, they remained loyal friends. When Wayne was dying, O'Hara helped him receive a congressional medal to honor his contribution to film and America's image around the world. After separating from Pilar, Wayne found real comfort with Pat Stacy. She wasn't a movie star or a glamorous public figure, she was his secretary, but she became much more than that. She took care of him, managed his schedule, and stayed by his side through the toughest times. They lived together from 1973 until his death in 1979. After he passed away, Pat wrote a heartfelt book called Duke, a love story in 1983. It revealed a softer, more private side of John Wayne that the public rarely saw, a man who was kind, sentimental, and afraid of being forgotten. Pat never married after him and dedicated her life to preserving his memory until she died in 1995. In 1964, when John Wayne was 57, doctors gave him devastating news: he had lung cancer. It wasn't a total surprise since he had been a heavy smoker for most of his life, often going through 6 packs of cigarettes a day. Doctors had to remove his entire left lung and 2 ribs to save his life. The surgery was extremely dangerous, with only a 50% chance of survival, but Wayne pulled through. Remarkably, he remained cancer-free for 5 years. Unlike most stars, Wayne didn't hide his illness. His advisors warned him that going public could hurt his career, but he didn't care. He wanted to use his story to encourage others to get checked and fight cancer early. He even gave the disease a nickname, the Big C, to make it sound less frightening. In 1965, just a year after his surgery, he appeared in a TV commercial for the American Cancer Society. He asked viewers to support cancer research and to take the disease seriously. But cancer wasn't done with him. In 1979, just months before his death, Wayne learned that he had stomach cancer, a battle he would not win. When John Wayne was diagnosed with cancer again, he tried an experimental vaccine, but sadly, it wasn't enough to save him. Even as his health declined, he never gave up on his mission to help others. From his hospital bed, he continued to record messages asking for more funding for cancer research. Just weeks before his death, he made a powerful statement, saying that people might one day find a cure for cancer without help, but he wouldn't bet his life on it. His words reflected his deep belief in the importance of medical research and his fighting spirit. Wayne's final movie, The Shootist, came out in 1976. It told the story of an aging gunfighter dying of cancer, a role that closely mirrored Wayne's own life at the time. He was 68 years old and struggling with health problems, often needing oxygen between scenes. Still, he refused to let illness slow him down. He insisted on doing his own stunts, even when he had to fall hard onto the floor multiple times. Not once did he complain. The movie became a success and was seen as his farewell to Hollywood. Many fans and critics felt that it symbolized his goodbye to both film and life. Wayne even changed the ending of the film because he wanted it to match his lifelong image as a man of honor. In the original version, his character was shot in the back, but Wayne refused to do it. "I've never shot a man in the back in any movie," he said. "Change it." The film went on to earn $13.4 million and gave Wayne a chance to say his final goodbye in a role that perfectly fit his legacy of courage and integrity. John Wayne passed away on June 11, 1979, at the age of 72, after a long battle with stomach cancer. He died at UCLA Medical Center surrounded by his family. His death was a major event across the country. Hollywood lost one of its greatest stars, and fans around the world mourned deeply. President Jimmy Carter called him bigger than life and a true American hero. Outside the hospital and his home, thousands of fans gathered to pay tribute, leaving flowers, letters, and even cowboy hats as a sign of love and respect. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame became a place where people lit candles to honor him. Wayne's funeral was private, but a public memorial followed soon after, broadcast on television so that millions of fans could say goodbye. The U.S. Naval Academy even made him an honorary member of their 1979 class, a touching gesture since he never served in the military but was always seen as a symbol of American strength and patriotism. Later that year, Orange County Airport was renamed John Wayne Airport, proving just how deeply he had influenced the American public. In 1985, Wayne's family founded the John Wayne Cancer Foundation in his memory. Their goal was to continue his fight against the disease and to keep his legacy alive as a symbol of courage and hope. The foundation later helped establish the John Wayne Cancer Institute, which became one of the top centers for cancer research and treatment in the world. The institute developed new ways to detect cancer early and created treatments that have saved many lives, showing that Wayne's impact continued long after his death. At the time of his death, John Wayne's estate was valued at $6.85 million in 1979, which would be around $25 million today. For a man as famous and successful as Wayne, this amount surprised many. People assumed he would be worth much more, considering he had been one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood for decades. This led some to believe that he had been very generous with his money or had spent a lot of it during his lifetime. It was also possible that not all his assets were counted in the official estimate. For instance, shortly before his death, Wayne sold his beloved yacht, the Wild Goose, for $750,000. The yacht had originally been a World War II minesweeper and was one of his favorite possessions, so its sale added to the mystery about how much wealth he truly left behind. Wayne loved real estate and owned several impressive properties. His most famous home was in Newport Beach, California, where he lived from 1965 until his death. The house sat right on the water facing Balboa Island. From the street, it looked simple, but inside, it was elegant and full of charm, much like Wayne himself. After he passed away, the house was sold in 1980 for $5.5 million, a huge amount for that time. Before moving to Newport Beach, he owned a 5-acre ranch in Encino, where he had lived for many years. At 58, he decided to trade the busy ranch life for the peace and calm of the beach. He also owned land in Arizona and Washington, showing both his love for nature and his smart investment sense. Wayne once joked that moving to Newport Beach earlier in life had been one of his smartest moves, because by then, I sure as hell couldn't afford it. When Wayne's will was made public after his death, it caused quite a bit of controversy. The biggest surprise was that he left nothing to his third wife, Pilar Palit, even though they had been married for over 20 years. They had separated in 1973 but never divorced. Instead, he left most of his estate to his 7 children from his first 2 marriages. This decision led to speculation about why Pilar was excluded and what their relationship had been like in his final years. The drama continued years later. In 2010, Wayne's daughter Isis sued her brother Ethan and John Wayne Enterprises, claiming she didn't get her fair share of the company. The will also included personal items and memorabilia for his children, but even those gifts caused tension. Disagreements over who should get what led to family disputes that lasted for years. The division of his estate, instead of bringing closure, created lasting bitterness among some of his loved ones. Then, in 2011, something remarkable happened for John Wayne fans around the world. More than 700 items from his life and career were put up for auction in Los Angeles. The event, held at the Century Plaza Hotel, allowed fans and collectors to buy a piece of Wayne's personal history. Many of these items had been locked away since the day he died, sealed and stored away for over 3 decades. The auction felt like opening a time capsule. The collection included movie costumes, props, awards, and even furniture from his home. Some items gave fans a rare look into his personality and work habits. For example, several movie scripts showed how carefully he worked on his roles. Some scripts, like The Horse Soldiers, had folded pages to mark completed scenes, while others were kept perfectly neat. There were also personal belongings like books, clothing, and his last driver's license. Even his colorful collection of neckerchiefs sold for $1,755. The auction broke records. His green beret from the Green Berets, 1968, sold for $179,200, while his cowboy hat from Big Jake and the Cowboys went for $119,500. His Golden Globe Award for True Grit, the film that also earned him his only Oscar, sold for $143,400. Even ordinary items, like his driver's license, fetched an astonishing $89,500. Each object gave fans a chance to feel a connection to their hero, keeping his legacy alive through memories and history. Through his movies, courage, and determination, John Wayne became more than just an actor. He became a symbol of strength, independence, and the American spirit. Even decades after his death, people still celebrate his life, his work, and his unwavering will to fight until the very end. At the 2011 auction, some of John Wayne's most personal and valuable belongings were sold, giving fans an even deeper look into his life. One of the items that stood out was a gold-plated Winchester rifle he had given to a close friend, which sold for $13,315. It showed his generous nature and his habit of giving meaningful gifts to people he cared about. His personal book collection also went up for sale, giving people a glimpse into his interests. Most of the books were about history, war, and military strategy, proving how much he respected discipline and leadership. But among these serious items, there were also small, surprising things, like his collection of seashells. It showed a softer, more sentimental side of him that fans rarely saw. Another standout piece was a portrait of John Wayne painted by the artist John Decker. It sold for $71,700. The painting had hung in Wayne's home for many years, which made it clear how much it meant to him. Along with artwork, the auction also included family photographs, handwritten letters, and furniture from his house. These items offered a touching look at his private world. They showed that beyond being a Hollywood icon and American legend, John Wayne was also a father, a friend, and a man who valued family deeply. But while his legacy as a movie star continued to shine, not everything about John Wayne's life was celebrated. In 1971, he gave an interview to Playboy magazine that caused outrage, and decades later, people were still talking about it. During that interview, Wayne made a series of comments that shocked many and revealed controversial views. The most infamous remark was when he said, "I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility." He was 63 years old and one of the most famous men in America at the time, so his words had a huge impact. Sadly, it wasn't the first time he had expressed similar opinions. In the same interview, he also made offensive comments about Native Americans, saying he didn't believe it was wrong for settlers to take their land, claiming it was simply a matter of survival. He further criticized the movie Midnight Cowboy, calling it perverted and using a homophobic slur. For years, the interview faded from public memory, but it resurfaced decades later and reignited major controversy. In February 2019, parts of that Playboy interview went viral on Twitter after a screenwriter posted about it, calling Wayne a terrible person. The tweet spread rapidly, and soon social media was flooded with arguments about whether John Wayne should still be honored as an American hero. Some people wanted him canceled, saying his racist and homophobic remarks should not be excused. Others argued that his opinions were a reflection of the time he lived in and that his achievements as an actor should not be erased because of his outdated views. This online debate soon spread into real life. The controversy reignited discussions about public spaces and institutions named after John Wayne, especially the John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California. The airport had been named after him in 1979, just months after his death, as a tribute to his status as a local legend. But by 2020, during the nationwide protests that followed the murder of George Floyd, people began to question whether the airport should continue to bear his name. On June 26, 2020, the Orange County Democratic Party officially called for the airport to be renamed. They stated that Wayne's remarks did not represent the county's current values of diversity, inclusion, and respect. Orange County had once been known as a deeply conservative area, but over time, it had become far more diverse and politically balanced. By 2018, Democrats had even won all the county's congressional seats. Many residents felt that keeping Wayne's name on such an important public space sent the wrong message to people of color. However, Wayne's family, especially his son Ethan, strongly defended him. Ethan claimed that his father was not racist and that people were unfairly judging him without understanding the full context of his life or the times he lived in. He said that Wayne had treated everyone with kindness and respect, regardless of background. Despite these defenses, the debate over the airport's name continued. As of 2025, it still bears John Wayne's name, but the controversy remains a reminder of how difficult it can be to deal with the complex legacies of historical figures. The backlash didn't stop there. It also reached the University of Southern California, USC, where John Wayne had once been a student. For years, USC's School of Cinematic Arts displayed an exhibit dedicated to Wayne, which featured movie posters, memorabilia, and personal items to honor his influence on film. The exhibit had been there since 2012 and was meant to celebrate one of USC's most famous alumni. But in late 2019, students and alumni began protesting, arguing that Wayne's racist comments made the exhibit unwelcoming, especially for students of color. After several months of discussions, in July 2020, USC decided to remove the display entirely. The university explained that they wanted to promote anti-racism and make the campus environment more inclusive for everyone. This decision was met with mixed reactions. Some praised the move, saying it was a step toward acknowledging and correcting past wrongs. Others criticized it, arguing that it was an attempt to erase history rather than confront it. This sparked a bigger and ongoing debate that goes far beyond John Wayne himself. Can we separate a person's art from their personal beliefs? Many of Wayne's fans argue that his films are an essential part of American culture and that they can be appreciated on their own, without approving of everything he said or believed. They point out that movies like The Searchers, True Grit, and Rio Bravo helped shape the entire Western genre and influenced generations of filmmakers. They see Wayne as a product of his time, not as a symbol of hate. But critics see things differently. They argue that his comments, and the messages often present in his films, reflect deeper problems with how American history was told on screen. Many of Wayne's westerns, they say, romanticized a version of America that ignored the suffering of Native Americans and glorified colonial expansion. To them, separating the art from the artist is impossible, because both were shaped by the same worldview. Whether people admire or criticize him, there's no denying that John Wayne remains one of the most discussed figures in American history. He was a man of contradictions, tough but kind, brave but flawed, admired by millions yet often misunderstood. His career made him a symbol of old Hollywood and the rugged, independent American spirit, but his words remind us that even icons can have complicated legacies. Decades after his death, his movies are still watched around the world, his name is still known by nearly everyone, and his impact on cinema is undeniable. But as society continues to change, people keep re-examining what he stood for, trying to balance his contributions to film with the painful truth of his outdated beliefs. John Wayne will always be remembered, not just for his roles on screen, but for the larger conversations his life and words continue to inspire about history, fame, and the meaning of legacy.